All right, good morning, Sharks fans. This is Eric Kerr. You can follow me on Twitter at PuckGuy14. This is a Pucknology conversation with Jeff Paterson of TSN 1040 in the Vancouver province. How are you, Jeff?
I'm doing well.
A huge supporter of Jeff's work, and we wanted to bring him on as we want to go further into this trade that happened last night where Jannik Hansen is now a San Jose Shark. Going the other way is Nikolai Goldobin and a conditional 2017 draft pick. Jeff, what's been the fan reaction in Vancouver about this trade? This came down late when both games were going on for the Sharks and Canucks.
Yeah, it was an interesting night here at Rogers Arena. We're back here again this morning in advance of the trade deadline. But Jannik Hansen took the warm-up and then was a late scratch from the Canuck lineup. And at that point, I think we all knew that something was up, and it was just a question of what and where and for how much. And ultimately, we got those answers as the night unfolded. But it's kind of funny. There was a game here against the Red Wings, but since neither of those teams is headed for the playoffs, really the hockey game was secondary, and everybody along Media Row was trying to track down the details of the Jannik Hansen deal. And so I think we were a little surprised when it was San Jose, only because Hansen had a list of 8 teams that he had presented the Vancouver Canucks, and we had tried to figure out, what those teams might be and what might be a good fit for Hansen. And teams like Pittsburgh and Washington, Montreal, the Eastern teams had all come up, but I hadn't really heard an awful lot of speculation and really hadn't heard anything linking him to the San Jose Sharks. So on that front, a little bit of a surprise, but really when you look at it, in terms of teams that Hansen would be familiar with, has never played for anybody else but the Vancouver Canucks, and certainly has watched the Sharks and the battle that they had in 2011 in the Western Conference Final, and then to see the Sharks get back to the Stanley Cup Final last year, and the Sharks have been in here in Vancouver twice since the All-Star break. So Jannik Hansen would be awfully familiar with the San Jose Sharks, and I asked him last night, childhood friend of Michael Bodker, so that's his instant connection in that locker room. That were the leading edge of the Danish, I won't call it an invasion in the National Hockey League, but we certainly have seen more Danes come since those two guys, and so I'm always curious about connections. The hockey community relatively small, and certainly he said that played into it, and it sounded like he had talked to Bodker a little bit just to pick his brain about the Shark organization before signing off on the deal.
Very interesting. I didn't know the connection there with Bodker. So for Sharks fans who aren't familiar with Hansen too much, what does he bring to the table, and what should they expect when he gets into Teal Town?
Jannik Hansen has world-class speed. That has been his trademark throughout his career. At times, the hands didn't sort of keep up with the feet, but this is a guy that has blazing speed, truly an elite skater at the NHL level, has been a terrific penalty killer for the Vancouver Canucks over the many years. Last year had 22 goals, and almost all of them at even strength. In fact, he was one of the leading guys in the National Hockey League last year, even strength goals per 60 minutes, because for whatever reason, Willie Desjardins, the coach here, was reluctant to use him on the power play, seemed to think that Hansen was a guy that scored off the rush, and so did everything at even strength and as a penalty killer. But 22 goals without a power play goal last year, pretty impressive numbers in that regard. This is a guy that he's just a quality individual, and that gets thrown around an awful lot. But look, I've been here throughout his time as a Vancouver Canuck, and I would put him up at the top of the list in terms of guys to deal with. A straight shooter. Boy, in the last couple of years, I think he just kind of came into his own off the ice as a sort of the voice of reason and conscience in that locker room. Like, if you ever wanted the truth about what was going on with the Vancouver Canucks, Hansen was a guy that you approached and didn't try to sugarcoat it here the last couple of years when things were going a little sideways or south for the Canucks, and just low maintenance. I think he's going to be a terrific fit there for the Sharks. He's versatile. Spent some time the last couple of years on the top line with Daniel and Henrik Sedin, but has played lower in the lineup. And again, I think a penalty kill is an area that, I'd be shocked if the Sharks didn't use him in that capacity with his speed and just how tenacious he is. This is a guy that was a 9th-round pick when there were 9 rounds. There's not even 9 rounds anymore.
Yes, exactly. And same thing with Pavelski years ago, but yeah, go ahead.
To give you an idea of how far Jannik Hansen's come, again, sort of on the leading edge of Danish players in the NHL. So you talk about a long shot, a 9th-round pick. Right now, I think he is 21st in scoring from that 2004 draft class. Like only 20 guys in that draft class have scored more in the NHL than he has. Now, that's some longevity on his part, a decade into his career. Just made the most of his opportunities, but, work ethic is his calling card, and speed is a close second, and I think he's a perfect fit. I mean, if people think that, the Pittsburgh Penguin model is the one to copy right now, and the Sharks and their fans would know from last year, they did so much of what they did in the playoffs based on speed. Jannik Hansen certainly fits that mold for the San Jose Sharks.
Absolutely. Sounds right up the alley for a Sharks team that wants to have more speed. Definitely needs some finish, and definitely would love more penalty killing. That's a huge thing. Of course, going the other way is Nikolai Goldobin, the 2014 first-round pick for the Sharks. Really never got a chance here. Where do you think he'd fit in with the Canucks?
I think they're going to give him a good long look here. They got 20 games to go. They're going to bring him in. I mean, it's crazy the way it works with the Canucks there in San Jose tomorrow night. And if people haven't heard, Jannik Hansen telling us last night after the game that visa issues are going to prevent him from playing and making his debut. So Canucks and Sharks still play 2 more times after this one. So Hansen won't have to wait too long to be back here to see the Canucks again. But his debut will have to wait. I think Goldobin, they plan to plug him in tomorrow night. Where he slots into the lineup, who knows? There are a lot of people here that would like to see him get a chance to play with Bo Horvat, who is, sort of emerged as the scoring leader for the Vancouver Canucks, and has played much of this season with Hansen and Alex Burrows, and obviously both of those guys are gone now, so he's going to need some new wingers. There's some excitement. Look, it's a long time coming here. The word rebuild has been kicked around by the fan base, but not embraced by ownership and management, and they've tried to sort of do it on the fly, and it hasn't worked. And they wake up this morning 28th in the overall standings. So I think the time has come, and the Burrows trade to Ottawa on Monday signaled that they're throwing in the towel on this season, and they're trying to get younger, and they're trying to amass as many prospects as they can. Interesting with Goldobin, he went 27th overall in 2014. The Canucks had 2 first-rounders themselves that year. Jake Virtanen went 6th, and it's been a struggle for him. He's in the American Hockey League right now. And Jared McCann went 24th, 3 picks before Goldobin. And so I asked Jim Benning last night, absolutely, they scouted Goldobin heavily. They wanted a center with that 24th overall pick, and that's why they went with Jared McCann. But very familiar with Goldobin. And another connection, when you talk about connections in the hockey world, Reed Boucher, a guy that they claimed on waivers just after Christmas, played in Sarnia with Goldobin. So, there's a familiar face there already in the locker room. And the Canucks have Nikita Trampkin, the big Russian defenseman, who has sort of, been on his own. They don't have any other Russians in that locker room. So in some ways, again, just on the social side, it's probably good to have a countryman and a guy that he can relate to right away come in and just help Trampkin. So, those are some of the connections. And again, the Canucks are just looking they need offense. They're one of the lowest scoring teams in the NHL, have been for a couple of years. And so the hope is that Goldobin ultimately, lives up to the expectations of a first rounder, and will step in and help this hockey team.
Yeah, he's been lighting it up for the San Jose Barracuda, and they've been on such a great run down here in the AHL. I would think with Horvat and the familiarity with Boucher, that would be a great line for Vancouver. Thank you, Jeff, so much for joining us. Tell everybody where they can find you on the Twitter sphere or wherever along media-wise.
Yeah. I'm on Twitter at Paterson Jeff. Paterson has 1 T and Jeff has just 1, or it's a J. And we've launched a very successful podcast, Canuck-related podcast up here with my colleague Jason Botchford from the province, one of the beat writers. We call it the Patcast, and we're getting ready to do one when the dust settles here after the deadline, and they can find that online at theprovince.com.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much, Jeff. You can also check him out on occasion on TSN 1040, one of my favorite radio stations up in Canada. Jeff Paterson, thank you so much.